And we are live. Welcome to Beyond the Black Tag with Mau and Jeremy. Today we have a wonderful guest. Probably my favorite. I'm not allowed to have favorites, but this one might be my favorite. Okay, we are here with. And then I get load shedding. We are here with Nangamso Dlamini. Hi, Soso. How are you doing?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. So, just in terms of introduction, okay, we'll have Nangamso introduce us to her background and everything. But before we do that, also, okay, I want to do a bit of introductions. So I met Nangamso in 2017.
Okay.
While I was staying in Langa, doing my first year in university, and I was preparing for a mission, right? Now, Soso had just come back from her mission, and one of the things you told me, Soso, was, Mao, it's better to be 100% obedient than it is 99% obedient, okay? And I never forgot that, because you were telling me that, look, if you decide that one day that, you know what, I'm going to sleep in just today, it's fine, right? It's harder the next time to not do that, right? Or if I want to do anything that's maybe bending the rules, that I should know that it gets easier the second time. And so it's just better to do 100% of the time than 99% of the time. And I've never forgotten that. And that helped me to be a good missionary. But at least that gives us insight into who you are.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
Tell us about who you are, where you're from, where did you serve, and when did you come back?
Right. My name is Nangamso Dlamini in the Uganda Kampala Mission. 2014 2015. Yes. It's been a long time. I've been back for a while.
A long time.
Yeah, I'm born, raised in the Eastern Cape, Mthatha. Big ups to Mthatha if anyone is wondering. Sorry for doing that.
Yeah, man.
Born in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. Very beautiful, tight-knit community at that time. Growing up was really fun. And yeah, I spent I think is where I grew in my relationship with Heavenly Father, because I was separate from my family, like my mom and my other siblings, and I think that's where my own testimony of the Savior grew. And yeah, I think that's all I can think of to share right now. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. When I'm married and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm married and stuff like that. Like it's just something.
Yeah, it's just started that I'm married.
I'm interested in when you said that when you got on your mission, you spoke about how you're you because you were independent on your own. You know, you left your family. Your testimony of Jesus Christ started to come, like your own. How do you think that transition was from relying on your parents saying, "Nangamso, we need to go to church," to, you know, you saying, "Hey, come rain or shine, I'm going to church, or I'm going to worship, I'm going to go and partake of the sacrament"? How was that for you?
I think in instilling like Christian values and stuff like that. So I've never really had I was never really forced, because before I joined the church, in particular Church of Jesus Christ, I was Methodist. And I remember times where it was just me and my dad going to church. My mom was behind, my brothers were behind. So I think generally I was always following around, but I think my own faith grew from, because I think to a certain extent, as much as like the environment is like Christian, there are things where you rely on another person's faith, or something happens and then you have to go back to your mom to confirm, "Hey, mama, someone said this about Jesus. Is that real?" You know, and stuff like that. It was like being in Cape Town by myself. I also discovered so many facts about the church, like the history of like blacks in the priesthood. I'm like, whoa, my mom's not here. Who do I confirm with? Is the church what I thought it was? So then, like, you then go back and like, okay, so why did I go to church and stuff like that? So I think I started to do those kinds of things where I'm just like, okay, so what does it then mean for me to remember the history is this way? So stuff like that, I think.
Okay.
Wow. That's actually a good part to a good way to start. I mean, you're kind of you're thrown in the dark, and you had to deal with what is true, the truths and things that have happened, and that's definitely not an easy conversation to have, especially that one specifically, the blacks in the priesthood. We've had our fair share of talks about it with missionaries on mission.
The first time, because like living with my mom, she knows so many Bible stories, almost like bedtimes of Bible stories and all of that kind of stuff. Family discussions about Job and stuff. So it was my first time reading scriptures by myself. And it was my first time actually reading through the Book of Mormon. And I'm like, let's
like,
what? So I'm just like, okay, so where do I fit into this whole conversation? So stuff like that, those are the kinds of things that started happening. That's, I think, what I mean. But just the foundation was built into childhood. So
And I think one thing I like about you, Soso, is you're a thinker, right? And you're able to think things through. And so I'm sure when you got to a point where you had a testimony of these things, it's not just something that was influenced by somebody else. It was your own thought process that had happened. You had made up your own decisions about that. That's pretty cool.
But the funny thing is that it still continues. Like, I remember my most recent crisis was having my own child 3 years ago, and asking myself, is this what I want to teach him? Do I really believe in it so much? I want to pass it down to my next generation, and then going deeper into it. What will I be sharing exactly and stuff? So you continue to go through these layers of it, okay, I believe it for myself, but then do I want to shift it to somebody else and frame an entire being's like life around this thing? Why do I think, so just like, it almost like there's different obstacles and different levels. So like you were at level 1 of questioning, and then you were okay. And then you get to level 2 and you're okay. Now you're like level 3, yay! So it's like, so it's different layers. You still have to keep like for me, what has been very helpful is that thing that the church says that if the Book of Mormon is true, the church is true. So I find myself going back to that. Do I believe the Book of Mormon is true? What in the Book of Mormon has changed my life? If those things are true, then I can go forward, so yeah.
Jeremy, do you see why?
I'm with you. I see the vision, and I'm very interested in how you just spoke about your. I think that aspect is a very important one that I've never thought about. Like your children. You're looking at your child whom you're raising, and it's a girl or a boy.
Boy.
It's a boy. So you're looking at this boy, and you're thinking. You're in your mind as a parent. You're looking at him and looking and saying, what kind of a man do I want you to become? What can I do as a mother now, to help you to do this? So I'm sure it can be scary when you're like, should I even teach him this? How did your mission kind of help you to even be a mother and a wife? Like, was there certain experiences there that were like that you kind of reflect on when you look at your child and say, hey, I'm gonna this is something I'm confident in that I can teach you or work with you on because my mission set this in stone for me. What is that for you?
Above all else, to have your own relationship with God, and to be an individual, so to speak. Like, my mission, unfortunately, was very much, especially when I arrived there, it was a very disobedient mission. So I learned to be an individual with my own, why did I come here? What's going on here? What are the rules? How am I navigating the situation? So I learned to be an individual, and I learned to build my own relationship with God that was personal to me, that had nothing to do with anyone else. And yeah, I think, did I get lost in the question? Can you repeat that question one more time so I can make sure I'm not lost in it?
It's like what on your mission has helped you to be a good mother? So how did your mission help you to be a mother and a wife?
Yes, being an individual and doing things to a certain extent in my own terms or in a way that works for me, and just having your own relationship with God, or being a free thinker, so to speak. I think that's what I'm coming down to, being a free thinker, because a marriage is very individual, or rather individual to the two people experience. How are you choosing to navigate? It's all the advice is very helpful, but to a certain extent, you have to be in your own bubble and create your own rules of how this thing will work for the two of you. And yeah, with the child as well, you have your individual child, and you have to, which is why I guess like the whole religion thing came to being, is that because like the first 8 years you're forming this individual, so what am I going to be pushing into his mind and all of those things? So I just like to just be free think and just to navigate your life in your own.
Sure.
Okay.
Wow.
So before there was the individual that you're helping to become a free thinker, there was hubby, right? So before Sipo came in the picture, it was just the two of you. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met. I know the backstory, but everybody else doesn't. How did you guys meet? And yeah, how did you get to the point where you are right now in your marriage?
Okay, so we served in the same mission, but it is not as spicy as that. It was not, because once I say that, I think all the crazy stories. We served in the same mission because he's from Durban, I'm from the Eastern Cape, so I guess mission was the catalyst for our meeting. But as anyone who knew me from mission knew, I was about the service of the Lord. I was not there to do anything else, you know. you know. So he got there. I was on my 9 months already, halfway mark. So I was just like, "Hi, Worm. We're from the same country. I hope you enjoy your mission. Bye." And so because our mission was kind of young, so they got to be zone leaders quite quickly. So we kept meeting up at MLC. My husband's a very like chill guy. He's not really talkative, so I'd always just see this like guy just sitting by himself. I'm like, oh, why is he not talking to anyone? And just like, hi, don't, that kind of thing. And just like apparently he developed feelings. On my last day, done transfers and stuff like that. My last day, he asked, "I wonder that email you wrote in my book," because every time people were leaving, because we were in the same zone when he got there, so every time a person's leaving the zone, you write all the best in your new area and stuff like that. So it's like, the email you wrote in my book, does that work? I'm like, yeah, it does. And so I left on Thursday. I left Uganda on Thursday. Monday I found his email, so he followed up, and then we kept emailing since.
Cool.
There's a lot of stuff that happened in between. This platform is not long enough to do, but that's the essence of it. Goodness me! The story is too long. But that's how it began, and we really followed up. So from then onwards, we kept emailing. Yeah. So that was the foundation of it all.
That's amazing.
We got
So
married
so
too.
so because you finished before him, you waited for him, yeah? You had to wait for him to finish his mission.
Yes, we stayed in communication, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's hope. There's hope for the brethren. There's hope for the brethren, Chagadama.
But did you date between that, or it was just you completely waiting for this guy?
I would talk to different people, and it had different reactions. Some guys, once you're like, oh, there's a guy on mission that I'm like waiting for, they'd be like, oh, okay, cool, bye. Others were like, okay, I'm in competition with this random guy I don't know. So it got different reactions. So yeah. But like I said, it's such a long story. But yeah, yes, I did talk to different people and so on and so forth. And it was something that, because like him talking to me, it was like, I just like to get to know you beyond like the mission, sister missionary kind of thing. So that's what we really were doing as well. Just like talking, kind of getting to know each other. Who's this person and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Mm.
So
There's hope. There's hope now.
There's hope. Yeah. Continue to have the communication lines down, right?
And follow up.
You know, there's hope.
And follow up.
So before, or not before, so you finish your mission, right? There's this guy who has you write him and you write back, and you guys just continue to communicate. But then your life is moving on, right? There's school in between. There's you coming back home and trying to figure out what to do next. What was most challenging during that period? And what was something that you, I guess, never expected? First, in fact, what were your expectations before you got home, and what was reality like?
I feel like it was a little bit wild. This was such a long time back that I don't think I could accurately tell you what my expectations. But
Yeah.
I can say for sure that I was not anxious to come back home. Like other people experienced this whole bittersweet situation. I was ready to come home. Like I felt like I fought the good fight. I did my part. Let's move on. And I even remember with my final interview with the mission president, he asked me, "Are you ready to go home?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And he was like, "Good," and he was very much like, "Just don't be thinking about mission. Go into your next chapter in life." So I know for a fact I was not anxious to come back home. I was very much excited. That question would even be, what did I expect of mission and what was my experience? Because that part was shocking. I think I was ready to go because I was so shocked. I was like, yay, okay, yeah, let's do this quickly and just put your head down and go home. So I was really very much ready to go home, and there were difficulties, especially with school. And I think because when I had gone on mission, I gave up a scholarship. So there were a lot of anxieties around that, around what are you going to do now? And also, I think the most confusing thing for my family was I was never someone who was very much like, I want to go on a mission. So everyone was very confused when I just out of the blue was like, okay, I'm going on missions. And so it was very confusing because people are expecting you to be done in 4 years and start working and helping out with your family. So there were all those, and people just were not in support of it. I think my family started supporting it fully on the last week when they're like, Usisi is really committed to this thing. But before that, they were are you sure? You can, it's fine, even though you already missed a semester, you can always go back. There's time, or you don't have to throw away your life, because we would we've never seen someone do it, and it had been such a long time since someone had served a mission in our branch. So it was just genuinely such a foreign concept, and I think I was the first sister missionary from the branch. So it was just see what is going on, So so just coming back and all of those anxieties and people like almost not saying it, but that undertone of, you see, if you hadn't gone on mission, you'd be at least somewhere now, and stuff. So I guess like all of those kind of like undertones and pressures were more of like the like weighing on you more than you need the pressure, so to speak. But like things eventually like worked out. I think I had too much pressure on me more than like the situation deserved. Things eventually worked out. I went back to school. And I carried on, and every other challenge has been a result of like either my own choices or just like how life is meant to work out. But mission and like all of those things, there was nothing that stopped me from anything.
So you had the chance to find yourself, to get over. You're adjusting to the world. Was it a quick one, or did it take a while?
I asked for a blessing from my mission president in our final interview, and I think it really helped me because one of the things he said as he blessed me is he blesses me with the ability to adjust well. So I think I adjusted quite well. Obviously, there's the things of like television and like sexual over sexualized content, like stuff like that, because you haven't seen it in a while, or so there were those aspects. Or I realized like that I'm not a very social person because like contacting on mission was a lot for me. So I realized like I just wanted to be away from people for a while. So there were those little things, but not like So I people wanted to visit me. I'm like, say I'm not here because I don't want to talk to anyone. I was talking to people for 18 months straight. So it was just those things, but nothing genuinely like hectic like I hear other people saying go through. I got my blessing. I was ready to go home. I was ready to adjust to going back home. But also I found that, I don't know how you guys experienced it. I found that life was the same, that I was different. Like that I had to choose who I wanted to be, because like I remember literally this one time in the kitchen, I'm like, the mop is the same. The broom is still the same. Indonesian data is still the same. The bin is still the same. Everyone is still the same. Like they're doing things the way they've always been doing them. I'm the different one. And I think it was more of me like, okay, what does this mean for me? Who am I? Because I'm different from who I lived as. And so it was just like kind of like this new person, who you are. How do you create room for her in this environment that's still the same, but you're just different. So that was more my story.
Sure.
I'm taking it in because that was my exact experience. In fact, just on things being the same, even the whole setup of home, the couch is still in the same place. Just
Literally.
like everything, it just felt too familiar.
Disappointment or like a surprise?
I think because you've gone through so many changes, you kind of expect that like there were changes going on at home as well. Just I don't know, somehow.
Right.
And then almost like, and it's not bad or good, it's just like, oh, I'm the one who changed. Everyone else was just still living life where they were living life. You're the different one, not them, So yeah.
So tell us then, you get home, you have all the experiences, you realize that you had changed, things had stayed the same. And I'm sure you quickly learned that because you had changed so much and because you were the one who was responsible for your future, that some things that you wanted before your mission, you no longer wanted. And some things that you did not think you wanted, now you wanted. What are some of the things that you did want upon your arrival home? What was most important to you, or what is one thing you can say, when I got home, even though I did not know everything that I wanted, at least I wanted ABC?
Definitely the ideal for any member of the church, a temple marriage. But again, these are not things that I didn't want, but these are things that I felt a firmer conviction about. So just even in young women, going through the young women program, listening to the leaders, just like I always had a sense of, oh, okay, I think like I really do want this whole temple thing that people are preaching, but like with what you see on mission, people's experiences, and you're like, no, temple marriage is the one. No, there's too much going on in this world, So I think more conviction that okay, I think that's gonna be my ideal. It formed how I wanted to be a parent. I knew that, or rather, coming from mission, I wanted to be a housewife. Homemaker and stuff like that. Even though I will say, from where I stand now, I do think differently, especially in the homemaking department, but also in the sense of prioritizing the children you choose to have. That they're not just, you don't just give birth to them and then give them to someone else to raise, that you're very much involved in their upbringing and just giving them time and actually nurturing, teaching them the gospel, teaching them lives, making food, like all of these things. So like having a family, a temple marriage, an education, marrying someone who got an education because you want to serve and be self-reliant, and stuff like that. So those were some of the things that were really important, or that was driven home to me. Or like I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing all these 70s and they look like they have money in their pockets. Okay, so clearly money in your pockets is a thing. So so stuff like that, like where you just kind of gain a firmer conviction on those things. So like those are some of my highlights I was saying.
I think before Jeremy speaks, I think you mentioned something very, very important there, right? I think there's this element in Christianity as a whole that as a Christian you must be poor, right? Or you must have little, and the experience differently say, look, it doesn't necessarily mean the more you love God, the less money you have. In fact, you can have it all. You can be successful, and you can serve Him, with all your heart. So I really like that you mentioning that as well.
I think the Lord. Yeah, continue.
No, poverty is a curse. Poverty is a curse. That's what I was gonna say. Poverty is a curse. It's not something to be glorified or made to look pretty. Poverty is a curse, guys.
I think we as members of the church tend to compare we do tend to compare our successes, but we also compare our downfalls. Like, I'm having it harder than you are, and that is a terrible thing to do. Like, instead of comparing, or just ask for the help that you want, that you're not asking for. Let us help you. What do you need? How can we get through this thing together? Because the Lord doesn't want His children to be poor. There's nowhere where it says the Lord wants all His children to be poor. He speaks about self-reliance. He says that I will take care of my children. As long as my children do what I need them to do, they will be okay. And so that kind of takes me on to this next question about marriage and dating and things like that. The Lord expects us to get married. And here you've done it successfully. And you're still succeeding. You're still going at it. It has its ups and downs, just like everything else in the world. What would you say to the returned missionary who comes back from his mission and knows how it feels to have a companion, but they are not exactly looking forward to marriage? They've got their own issues, issues that we don't really know about or can't really, get out of them. But what would you say to that person who, just does not think that marriage is the thing that they want to do?
This is not the atypical member of the church response, but I think people shouldn't do things they're not ready to do. I think the reason divorce rates have increased within the church is because people get married also prematurely because of the pressure to do it. There's also, like with the law of chastity, people want to get that over and done with. There's so many layers to it. But I remember a friend, she was 23 at the time, not a returning missionary. And she said to me, I don't want to get married, but obviously when YSA we're in institutes, we're reading marriage manuals and all of these things. It's like, I don't feel like I want to get married. And I said, don't get married because the Lord wants you to want to do these things, Yeah, so you have to want to be married. Like, what are you doing? You can't do something you don't want to do for the sake of doing it because, it's almost like what people say about, or rather, there's a part in the scriptures where I can't remember what was happening, but the person didn't have enough faith, and then they prayed and said, Jesus, heal my unbelief. I guess you can find out, like, okay, they say marriage is this thing, but I don't feel it. What's the link? Like, what's maybe the problem? Or, like, but don't do something that you're not feeling ready to do or you don't even want to do. I would rather a person be old and all of those things and not married than go into a situation that you don't want or you're not ready for because you're ruining the next person's life who wants to be married and sealed in the temple, because a marriage is as good as the two people in it. So if you have two healthy people in marriage, it's a great marriage. But when people are a bit toxic, then it's a very unhealthy environment. And so a marriage is as healthy as the two individuals. So if you don't even want to do it, but you're doing it because you feel you want to please the Lord and all these things, the Lord will be pleased when you are in tune with Him and you are aligned with Him. And so if you're not in that space, don't do it. Like, that's my opinion. Don't do it. Don't do it if you're not ready for it. Find out what's happening. Do you have traumas or stuff like that? Or is it just I'm not mentally there, or just enjoy. Like, for example, one of my younger brothers, he didn't want to be married because in the branch we are in, like our home branch, a lot of people are married in poverty. And so he'd see a lot of families with children, and it's just utter poverty. And then he's just like, no, this is marriage in a church. This is not what I want. So, man, we had a family friend invite him to Joburg, and the guy was like in his 20s, and his wife's in his 20s, and they have like a couple of friends, and it's the weekend, and we were going to Braai, and everyone has their own car, and like they were vibing, everybody's working. You can just see the skin is just popping, everything is going on. He was like, oh, church marriages can also look like this, so you just have to like give yourself the time, like allow yourself to actually want the thing, and not just do it because you're afraid God will punish you, or and stuff. I guess we have to build genuine relationships with the Lord and not do things because we feel forced or feel like we won't go to the celestial kingdom. Just allow yourself to be where you are spiritually, emotionally, and progress from there. Like, if you fight an emotion, you can't get past it. If you don't acknowledge who you are and the place you are at in life, you can't grow. You have to first acknowledge and then work through it. So that's my take. Don't do it, guys. If you don't want to get married, do not do it until you're ready, or even at least understand why you're being told to be married, and then decide then if it's something you feel like you want to work on, and then go from there. That's not the atypical answer, I feel, but that's been my experience from watching so many friends get divorced, and it's not pretty. So just like be ready to do it. Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Mommy.
That's powerful. That's powerful. You can see mom's energies are being summoned soon, and so
This is not usual.
Yo, man, you've just hit it on the nail there. Something you said made me remember another scripture. I think it's in the Book of Mormon, and the Lord speaks about giving, right? He says, if somebody gives a gift grudgingly, they may as well have retained it, because they're not really doing it because they want to do it. They're doing it, and then you're still complaining, do I really have to give? Or you're complaining, And I think it's synonymous to what you're saying right now, to say, okay, God, look at me, I'm keeping the commandments, but I don't really want to, my heart's not really there. Is it then something that God can something that God can say, okay, or would God rather be like, wait for the time where you feel like doing this, or at least pray until you feel like doing it, but do it with full intent, or with real intent rather. I like that.
And it's something else. And it's something that I'll say to Christianity as a whole, not just like being a member of the church, being a returned missionary. God is made to be a fear situation. Like, you have to be afraid of God. And can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, it's like God is made to be just this thing that's like fearsome, and if you don't do what he says, you will be punished. Therefore, do it even if you don't feel like it, because at least if you did it, you're in the right, and stuff. But there's power in being who you are at every stage of your life and being genuine about those emotions. There's a thing that we used to joke about naively, actually, in Uganda, because born again Christians, they would love to say, I've accepted Jesus Christ as my personal savior. And I don't know why we found that funny, but we did. I was 19, so I mean, that's my excuse. So, but getting back home and actually building a personal relationship with the Lord, I realized how powerful that is, that he's not just some random guy who was born 2,000 years ago, but he's actually a personal part of your life, and you make him fit into your own life personally. So there's just so much power in actually making that relationship yours, and like setting it apart from anybody else, apart from prophets, apart from all the fear mongering, all that other stuff. Just like being genuine about where you are emotionally, where you are with your sins, everything. It's just like, this is where the church wants you to be, but me, I'm here, and this is where I am. I want to be there, but this is where I am now. So I'm going to work at my pace to get there. What does it mean? Like, just a realistic thing, and just working with God and realizing that God's love is there. It's not going to be taken away, and just like removing the fear from religion or Christianity or from being a member, and just like, because I think fear is used too much in religion, that you don't get to experience God as an individual.
And I think that perspective comes with you having a relationship with him. I've always said the God I pray to, the God I've had experiences with, is not the same God that whoever it is that's trying to make him be this scary person. That's not the same person that I've experienced. I've experienced somebody who's able to hug me. I've experienced somebody who's able to, when I've made a blunder, to say, it's okay, you can try again. I've met this loving person that maybe might be different to what maybe a preacher would say, fire and brimstone. So I think you're very right in saying that you have to have your own experience with him, and he understands a bit more than we give him credit for. So that's amazing.
He's kinder, he's more loving, he's more nurturing, and he's also more blunt. I remember praying about being a homemaker, and I was like, I want to be a homemaker because even you take care of your children all the time. You're always watching over us. And the response that came was, what makes you think that I spend all my time just like looking after you guys? And I was like, what you mean, God? You mean you don't spend all your time watching over us? I still don't have the full answer to like what that actually even means, but like he's blunt, so but in the most like personalized way. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think, at least it was a revelation for you, but it goes on to say that's not all you have to be when you're a homemaker. You know, you don't have to watch over us.
Yeah. Or be a homemaker because that's what you've decided to do, or that's what you feel is best for your family, not because someone else is telling you to be a homemaker. Or at least think beyond the fear mongering. Actually think, what does it mean to be a homemaker? How does it benefit my family to be a homemaker? How long should I be a homemaker for? Don't just like jump into it because someone said it's the right thing to do. Okay, I have that. But then what does it mean for my personal life, for my own circumstance? Like, you have to be a free thinker. Men are to be agents unto themselves. So you have to think beyond just worshiping individuals. You really have to build your own relationship with God. I'll say that's one of my biggest takeaways. You have to build your own relationships, honestly.
Okay. So the final question I have for you, Soso, what do you know now?
Okay.
I mean, I think you've shared a lot of things that you now know with perspective, with time. But what do you know now that you didn't know maybe after you came back from your mission? And what advice would you give to people who are coming back home and maybe are despondent with how things are turning out? What would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
What do I know now that I didn't know before? I guess before I didn't truly have, like, the fact that I'm a child of God didn't really resonate with me. Like truly resonate with me. And I think I just got it on a superficial level, but with the way I understand it now, I know that Heavenly Father has me. Almost just like that song that says he's got the whole world in his hands. I really believe that he has me, and he's looking out for me. He's looking out for my best interests, and that has come through very hard experiences where you're really doubtful of what's going to come next, and he comes through in the 11th hour, or through therapy, where I discovered on a much deeper level some of my distrust in God, so to speak. So I think what I can firmly say I know now is that I'm a child of God, and how it's affected how I live my life. I think I apply the scriptures way more now. I've come to understand things like men are agents unto themselves. I've built a deeper relationship with God, my own unique relationship that works in our own way. That if members of the church that were not my close friends knew about, they would be shook. But it works. It works for me and God. And just like a father and a daughter have their own ways of communicating and their own individuals ways, I've learned that. And I'm a creator as well, just like I've learned what it means to have divine nature, divine potential, individual worth. How the things that I think of, that I desire, I can create. Faith with works miracles. So it's those things, that those seeds of godliness within me means I share part of the traits of God, traits of being a creator of my own life, my own destiny. I think there's a quote, a poem by I forgot his name, but it's in Invictus. I think that's the title of the poem. It's an Invictus poem or whatever. But anyway, the last two lines of the stanza says, "I am the master of my sheep. I am the captain of my soul. I'm the master of my sheep. I'm the captain of my soul." And that I've come to really realize and appreciate, and so I can firmly say that I'm a child of God, and that it resonates with my internal spirit. That I know for sure. Before, it was just something that, it was a cute primary song, that kids recited, that I kind of rolled my eyes at, but anyway, yeah.
What I will say is thank you so very, very much, Soso, for being with us and enlightening us and giving us some of your wisdom. You know, I'm sure many people will benefit from that as they go through their own journeys. We've also lost Jeremy, but it's fine. He'll catch up. Once again, guys, thank you so much for. Thanks, Soso. Thanks, guys, for tuning in with us. Like, subscribe, share, follow us, and we'll catch you another time. And thanks for every viewer that comes through. We'll see you soon. Cheers. Okay.